Compare the Renault lineup now to that of several years ago and you'll see some pretty fundamental changes. You could say a lot of that is down to Nissan. The brand partner has shown great success with its crossover lineup, so with this in mind, Renault has decided to follow suit, and in came the Captur, the Kadjar and this, the Koleos. Now strip it right back and what you're left with is the underpinnings of the Nissan X-Trail, but it's been given a bit more French flair. It has a lot of the styling cues from the Megane family hatch, so you get this imposing grille and unique LED headlamps. But with its raised stance and beefy demeanour, it really stands out alongside other competition like the Hyundai Santa Fe, Skoda Kodiaq and Kia Sorento. The cabin is a nice place to be. There's a good level of soft touch materials and the quality of the cabin improves depending on how much more you spend. There are still some scratchy plastics on show though. There are some neat touches too though, like this leather trim on the gear knob and on the steering wheel and the imitation leather on the door grab handles. All the controls are well placed and the standard 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system is relatively straightforward to use, if a little slow to respond. A larger 8.7-inch infotainment system is available on higher spec models. The seats are comfortable and supportive and fully adjustable, as too is the steering wheel, and visibility out front is also pretty impressive. It's just hampered a little bit by these large A-pillars which make pulling out of junctions just a little bit trickier. You'll find there's ample space in the cabin, whether it's head and legroom up front or in the back, and because it's quite a wide car you can fit 3 people in the back quite comfortably. The only person who might grumble is whoever's going to be sat in the middle, as the seat is raised, which will impede headroom. The only other frustration is that some of its main rivals, like the Peugeot 5008, Hyundai Santa Fe, Skoda Kodiaq and of course its sibling the Nissan X-Trail, is that they're all available with 7 seats. Plus the rear seats only split 60-40, whereas some of its rivals offer 40-20-40. The boot is a good size and shape and there's no load lip. While it's not the biggest in its class, there's more than enough space for a couple of large cases. So for a car that's largely based on the Nissan X-Trail, you'd probably expect it to drive pretty much the same. Well, you'd be wrong. The ride is far less forgiving than the Nissan. Now that's largely down to the big alloy wheels, which makes it rattle and thump over potholes. Also, the suspension is a bit noisy too. The steering is light, which makes low-speed manoeuvres considerably easier than in some rivals, but it's just a shame it's not a bit weightier when you're driving at higher speeds. And when you're driving down those country lanes, there is a bit more body lean than we'd like. The engine lineup is pretty lean. There are only 2 diesel engines available, a 1.6 or a 2 litre with either 128 brake horsepower or 173 brake horsepower respectively. Now the lower powered version is pretty impressive around town and it has just enough oomph at higher speeds. The more powerful version is obviously swifter, but when matched with the optional CVT automatic gearbox, you will need to be a bit more mindful of gaps in the traffic when overtaking. Running costs are competitive with the 1.6 litre, averaging around 57 miles per gallon and 128 grams per kilometre of CO2. The more powerful 2 litre will average close to 43 miles per gallon, which isn't bad, but still not as strong as some of its rivals. The Koleos is one of the more stylish offerings in its class and equipment levels are pretty impressive. The trouble is some of its rivals offer more space, a more engaging drive and to some, and more importantly, a couple of extra seats.